to be late. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for your time. Welcome to the second workshop of this second webinar of INMP. As we mentioned the other day, the 23rd of June, we were having two workshops, webinars with Concha Rodá. The other day, we learned a lot with Concha about digital transformation, digital strategy, etc. And today we have the second part of this webinar, of this workshop, components of the digital transformation. So we will talk today more about technology, website, and other questions that were mentioned on the previous webinar too, and some of the issues that were important. Here you have where is the link to the previous recording. Then we will share it on our YouTube web page and on our web page, and we will try to spread it, all those two webinars. But here you have the link to the previous webinar for any of you that perhaps couldn't attend the previous one and couldn't see it now. So here you have. And to remind you that this is not going to be our last webinar. This is our second webinar before the summer. Then we will have like a little rest during the summer. And after September, we will have 3 new webinars. We will be informed, you will be informed about the dates of the webinars. Here you have Art and Peace and Artivism. It is supposed to be in September. Educating in Peace exhibits and educational tools in October, and Peace Heritage in November. As soon as we know more about them, who are going to participate, the exact dates, etc., and how it's going to be, we will inform you. So if we don't have your email addresses and if you want to be informed, please write us to these INMP coordinators. So once that we have all the information, we will share with you, and we will be happy that you or other colleagues can participate on those new webinars too. Okay. So after this small presentation, I give the floor to Concha. Now we are ready again to learn a lot from her. So Concha, welcome, and that's your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Welcome back to all of you that attended the last week's webinar, and welcome to the new attendees. Last week, we covered 3 of the main components of digital transformation. We talked about strategy, then audiences and content. And today we will talk a little bit about the organization and what it means for the institutions, all this digital change, and a little bit also about technology. And the second part we will dedicate to talk about websites, museum websites, and see what a renovation process of a museum website means. Well, digital transformation affects the whole organization. The what we do, how we do things, the processes. Transforms our ways of working. We are transitioning from silos, closed departments, not interacting with each other, to transversal cooperation. Of course, it requires training. In museums, we were not probably prepared enough for all this digital change, and new roles appear. We need new profiles in museums, and it alters the structures of the organization. The current environment and social change demands new ways of working, more connected, more agile, more cross-functional, and more user-centric, more visitor-centric. And then digital transformation may very well mean redefining priorities. For example, for many museums, digital was something nice to have or something they should be addressing in the near future. But now it has really become a priority for museums. And digital transformation may also mean restructuring the organizational chart and reassigning roles, setting new goals, also a redistribution of resources. And it's in fact an internal revolution that needs a strong leadership. It may cause uncertainty, it takes time, and it's an ever moving picture and moving faster and faster every day. For that, it's said that digital transformation is more cultural and organizational than not a technological shift. The culture of the organization is removed, and then digital can thrive. And for real digital transformation to happen, we need it to be embedded into the whole organization. And I say that it's not just that digital requires this organizational change, that yes, it is digital, needs that structures are more horizontal, that internal communication is very, very constant, and we need flexibility, etc., etc. But it's not just that. It's that the organizational change that it's needed to evolve museums for the new audience's needs is pushed and facilitated by digital. Sorry. So digital is a transformation driver, an innovation driver. We can focus on improving what we are doing, on being more efficient, on providing better visitor experiences, and doing better what we already are doing. Or we can also envision, start a path of innovation, trying new things. And that's why there are two very important aspects to address inside the museum or in any organization, and that's attitudes and aptitudes. First, attitudes. We need people open to change, open to collaborate, to experiment, to explore and try new things. An open creative mind is needed. Open towards new ways of connecting with the audiences and towards digital change. Open to accept this user-centered approach with a mindset of innovation. We must try to break the no attitude, because no doesn't take us anywhere. And the other day, at the end of the session, it was an interesting discussion or topic that appeared, that it was how to keep balance between this more visitor-focused organization and the mission of the organization. And that for Museums for Peace is an extremely important question to ask, because, well, of course, Museums for Peace have a very important, magnificent mission. And then how to keep this balance between this mission and their users' interests, expectations, and needs. Maybe Museums for Peace must not be just driven by the users' expectations, but I would say that's true for any museums. The optimal is really to keep this balance. We cannot renounce to our mission and to serve just blockbuster content, we could say. We need to keep this balance really, really well. But even for Museums for Peace with that extremely important mission, also it's important not to, it's important to keep in mind the users, because if they provide interesting content, well communicated, with a great audiovisual material, with powerful stories, etc., they will attract and maintain this engagement with users, which is really important. And now for aptitudes, museums need to set a permanent training in digital skills. There is a lack of digital skills in museums. We need to train people to use these cooperative tools to study the analytics, to learn new ways of communication, audiovisual production, data integration, also agile project management, and of course, these other called soft skills, which are negotiating, the team building, project leading, etc. So we need to really embed this digital mindset across the organization. And for that, prioritization is a must. And then to help organizations prioritize, there are several methodologies. One that I find very, very effective is this Moscow method. The M goes for must, S should, could, won't. The must. Those are the activities, the actions, the projects that we must do. If we don't, we are not accomplishing our museum's mission. So those are compulsory. Then comes the should. We should do this, provided we have enough resources, enough people, enough time, whatever. We should do this. So those come second on the priority list. The could is the nice to have. We could do that. We cannot now, but maybe if we have some sponsorship or a new opportunity, a pilot project, we could explore this. And then I also like very, very much this last option, the want. It's important to tick off things of the list, of the to-do list, because we don't have enough money, enough time, enough people. We will never have all the people and the resources we need. So it's important to keep in mind the things that we want to do. Perhaps because we don't have the knowledge or we don't have the resources. And all these different classifications have to be flexible, because things can change, opportunities may appear. We may have a new sponsorship or a new member of the team or a new funding or a new technology. So we need to be flexible and open to catch opportunities that may appear. So maybe things that we have decided we won't do that. For example, we may have said we won't do a video game. But then what if a startup comes with a nice proposal and we can make some kind of partnership? So we need to remain open and flexible all the time and be adapting our strategy according to new elements that may appear. To prioritize the action plan, it's useful also to decide to concentrate first on what's the more essential. So what affects directly to our museum's mission, what's the more essential. Then also what has the more impact for the public, for the audience. And being pragmatic, what's easier to do, and what's more feasible. So we have the resources, the money, the time, the knowledge, the people to do that. Combining these four aspects, we can also decide what to prioritize. And a nice question to ask is this one: which actions connect with other projects or initiatives that we may have in process already in our museum, so that we are tending to build an integral plan. Instead of doing isolated actions, we try to combine and integrate them. and very important when we are talking about the organization. Digital is not a one-person task, and digital is not a one-department task, not anymore. Maybe at the beginning it was, but not anymore. Cross-organizational is really, really a must for any institution today. But particularly for digital transformation to happen, collaboration is really critical. We will not be able to deliver great content, great experiences only from digital departments. Collection, library, education, marketing, human resources, financing, and of course, management, all and each one of the departments and staff are needed to build these new connections with users through digital outcomes. And together, we work better and achieve more. Then, linked with this idea of internal collaboration, arises the question of the redistribution of tasks. That's why I talked at the beginning about the restructuring roles inside the museum. We need a more distributed model. First, because it's unsustainable for a single department to produce and deliver all the digital content, and since the pandemic, more than ever. But not just for sustainability, also because digital permeates or should invade the whole museum, and so all staff should be involved in the museum digital ecosystem. For example, in my last museum, in the National Museum of Art of Catalonia in Barcelona, we try to spread the managing of social media. For example, the Twitter account, the institutional Twitter profile, is run by the digital department, but then we made some training and some guidelines for other people of the museum to write on the museum's digital profile. For example, one person for the library, one from the activities department, one from restoration. And that's a very nice way, very useful way to enrich the content, to alleviate the workload of the community manager. And also because on social media, doing content in real time is really a singular trait. So we must take advantage of that. And if a person is restoring an object, what's better than that same person explains on Twitter or on Instagram what she or he is doing, or the same with an activity. Which better that the events staff tweets about that event. So not just for sustainability, but also to provide a richness of perspectives and points of view. We did the same with our blog. Anybody from the museum can write for the blog. All the posts are signed, but we distributed some editorial guidelines for the blog, and we discussed them internally. And then anybody can write. Of course, then the digital department has a responsibility to edit, because, well, nobody writes perhaps with that grammar correction that is needed, or perhaps some long paragraphs must be made shorter and put some subtitles, etc., etc. But all posts on the blog are signed by the author. And then we have now more than, I think, 30 contributors to the blog. And now and then we also invite some external authors. We have some guest bloggers, also because this enriches the perspective, not just from the internal staff writing about the museum and its performance, but also having people from different professional fields to write on our blog. So I think that the digital department is not a supermarket. where people or of other departments come to ask for a mini site or to ask for an app or whatever. The digital department, I think, is the place to lead this digital change and work together with the rest of the museum team to build together the museum's digital presence. As we saw the other day, for that, a strategy will help us put things into perspective. But now, what impact has COVID had on organizations regarding digital? I think that the first one is that the digital strategy is now prioritized. For the museums that already had one, maybe they need to rethink it and redirect it and adapt to these new times. But for museums that didn't have one, they have started to realize that they need one to build this integral, coherent perspective into digital. So that's one of the first consequences in digital for the organizations today. And linked with that, there is an acceleration of digitization. Many museums had not their collections digitized or not sufficiently, and there is now an acceleration of that because this is the first step to be able to connect our collections with the audience, to have them first digitized, then published on internet. Also, the internal collaboration I already commented, and teamwork. This has, I think, worked very, very well during the confinement. People started to collaborate and work together, even with the social distancing. And now I think that this internal collaboration will be still enhanced and prioritized. And we are now in this attitude of the cooperation, collaboration, co-creation, co-management, etc. And this cooperation also among museums, I think, will grow. Many museums were still were already collaborating, maybe for loans of artworks, for temporary exhibitions, or for some research projects. But on digital, I think there was not that much collaboration yet. And so I think that in this post-pandemic era, we may see more digital cooperation among museums and among museum networks. Perhaps this remote work will remain as an option, perhaps part-time, perhaps 1 day per week. I don't know, but remote work is now here to stay in many cases. And the pandemic made also very, very obvious that not everybody had the skills needed. So I think that museums will need to reinforce this internal training. I will insist on that because I think it's very, very key. It's crucial. Everybody must have a level of digital skills in museums, and we need people better prepared for the digital challenge. The fostering of innovation will continue. The innovation, the exploration of new ways of connecting our collections, our content with the audience. We museums probably have to activate the digital funding. Many museums already had some space on their websites dedicated to sponsorship, but I think these opportunities of digital funding will need to increase because museums, of course, now have very heavy difficulties from the financing side. So maybe through digital, we can enhance the digital membership. That's already happening in many museums around the world. Before, we thought that these associations of friends, the friendship of the museums, were just for people who visited the museum personally, physically. But now there is an extension of this digital membership, and members can access then to premium digital content. And so there is maybe a new way of funding for museums there. Or the online shops. It's very, very easy to put out there a platform for online shopping. People love to shop, as we have seen during the pandemic. So for museums, is there an opportunity as well? And we may use digital platforms for crowdfunding initiatives. This is small sponsorship. People give a small amount of money to reach a common goal of the museum. We did so in the National Museum of Art of Catalonia via the Museum Friends Association. We did it in several occasions. One, it was to acquire a watercolor by a Catalan artist. In public museums don't have funding to buy new pieces, new artworks. So through this crowdfunding campaign, we could acquire a new watercolor. And also in another occasion, we started a crowdfunding campaign to acquire books for the library, because when there was a restriction in the budget, the library maintained the subscriptions to periodical journals, not to interrupt, but there was no budget for books. And then through this campaign, we could buy books, and this was combined in digital and also with paper and physical. So there may be new ways to find digital funding. And of course, organizations, as well as people, need to develop this resilience, this strength, this resistance in front of difficulties, be it financial, be it social, etc., to move forward. And as I was saying, new profiles and new jobs arise. This was a slide by Nick Honisit a few years ago, and we have here some new positions that were brand new for museums, such as, for example, Chief Digital Officer at the Metropolitan Museum and others, or Director of Digital Center and Strategy for the MoMA, or also Director of Digital Media, or Director of Technology and Digital Media, Chief Content Officer. Those are new roles that need new skills, really. And I attended a few weeks ago a seminar in the We Are Museums community. By the way, I strongly recommend you to follow this We Are Museums community. It's very interesting. The website is full of resources. It's We Are Museums, and they run webinars and group discussions, and it's really interesting if you want to be updated on these museum topics today. And then Kaisha Hatik, she's from Norway or Sweden, I think Sweden. She defines that the museums, in the traditional museums, had siloed departments with few events, with lack of participation, and they were developing single efforts in digital. And now, museums tomorrow, but we are in this tomorrow now, in this post-pandemic era. Museums are more collaborative, digitally skilled, and extending across multi-channels and multi-formats, able storytellers, team-driven, responsive, inclusive, participatory, personalized, immersive. All these qualities are facilitated and enhanced by digital. And when I was preparing for my master class for my students, I tried to make them evident that there were lots of digital roles in museums to apply. There were very interesting digital roles for museums. And I started to recopilate all those job alerts for museums in digital. And then I thought that this could be also useful for museums or for universities. And then I enlarged and I included also definition of functions, of responsibilities for museums, digital roles. And then I also recopilated different reports and quotations by people thinking about digital in museums or digital in organizations today. And then I compiled this resource, which is free to access, free to download. I will just stop one moment to share, to go to the chat, and I will share the link if you want um, to consult or to download. The document is free to download, and I'm now working on a still enlarged version that I think will be ready in, let's say, in September. I intended to have it ready before summer, but too busy and too many things happening all the time. So I will have it finished probably in September. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Here. Okay, are there any questions or comments, or are your museum start planning contracting new roles, new digital profiles? Is any of your museums in the network starting to think that perhaps they need a data analyst or a digital content creator or digital producer or a chief digital officer?
I think, Concha, as we are small museums,
Okay.
we need a person that can do all those things together, you know, and
Yes,
is
that's
able
usual
to
for a small
even.
museum.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
question. It's
Yes.
true that when new people and younger people arrives, sometimes you ask that apart from guiding something or doing an exhibit, you know something more about digital, you know, videos, analytics, etc. But in small museums, it's very difficult to try to get only one person that will be dedicated to that.
Yes, to the website, to social media, to whatever. But then it's more necessary even to train the people you already have. Perhaps you have someone that is very able to write good content for digital, but perhaps that person, I don't know, doesn't know very well how to produce or edit video. Then it's more important than ever to provide some specific training in digital for the people that you already have in museum. That it's important for any museums, but for small and medium museums, it's perhaps more important still. Yeah.
I would have a question, please.
Yes.
Yes, hello. My name is Petra. I'm from the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very small peace museum and completely digital now. We would like to create a site or a page where we would show the links of other museums who have digital content.
Mm-hmm.
You said in your talk that the museums are starting now to pay more attention to digital content and that they're placing it on the site. Do you think they are also starting to be willing to share the information so that we can be connected and linked? For example, you have something on a special piece item. We would like to put it on our site, and that we would ask your museum, can we place the link, and are you ready for this? Do you think the mentality, attitude is already there, to cooperate free knowledge and free exhibits with others.
Absolutely. Yes, that has been so for several years now. At the very beginning, it was not that easy, and you have to somehow ask permission for other institutions to link to their content, but that is a very usual common practice every day. And not just for generosity, which it may be the desire to share knowledge, but also because it's good for the museums that others link to their websites. This is also a ranking criterion by Google. The more you are linked by third parties, the better your website is considered. So you rank better on the SEO results, the search engine results. So yes, absolutely. Now I think people are very, very open to be linked, to have their content linked by others. Yes, absolutely. We will talk in the second part in depth about websites and website content. Yes. Is there any other question or comment before we continue? Okay. Then I think we will go to the last item of the digital transformation process, which is the technology. And we will cover it very, very quickly because this is not a webinar on and technology tools, just a few ideas. Well, we have now a very wide diversity of channels and devices. In a few years' time, we have transitioned to have our digital presence that was mainly concentrated on the website to a diversity of platforms, devices, and channels, and for multiple audiences. So the panorama is more complicated now. And the more we have our content distributed, the more we need really a strategy to put all that content in an integral and coherent way. Excuse me. And when I found this quote by Steve Jobs, I can say that it's really a pleasure to see that we are aligned with what Steve Jobs said back in 1997. 1997. He, a person from the technology field, said, "You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology." So it's not technology first. Technology comes after you have thought about your strategy, your audiences, your content. Then comes the how we will communicate and transfer all that content. So first customer experience, visitor experience, then technology. But that said, it's important to keep an eye open to the technology trends. Perhaps we are not able now to develop something on virtual reality because we don't have the resources or the knowledge, but we know that virtual reality is there and that many museums are already using it. So it's important to know what they are doing. And so when perhaps an opportunity arises, we will be better prepared to adapt it. And so for that, it's very useful to keep an eye to the trends, as I was saying. The people from the Horizon report made every 2 years a report on education and another one on museum. The last one, however, was published in 2016. But it's still useful to see. In the report, they divide the trends among those that are short term, that is 1 year to be implemented, then those of mid-term, 2 to 3 years, and long-term, 4 to 5 years. But since museums don't advance so quickly, we can see that some long-term trends that they set in 2016 are still in process of being developed. They said that short-term mobile content and delivery, participatory experiences, but still mobile, yes, but participatory, well, there are many museums that are not truly participatory yet. Midterm data analytics, that is very important. We need to measure, to know, and to advance. Personalization, again, many museums don't have personalization still implemented. And as long-term, they saw the cross-institution collaboration. This still is an issue for many, but much needed. And new roles for museum professionals. So I think that all those trends are still to be applied today for museums. And the report is free to consult and download. You have here the link. And this is interesting because for each of the technologies, augmented reality, virtual reality, online training, etc., they have a few thoughts, a few reflections, and then two or three examples of best practices. So it's a very interesting resource to consult. It's a pity that it's not, it doesn't exist a newly edition of this report. I hope there will be someday. Okay. Then, of course, we have many challenges. Many challenges in front of us. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun. And when we are confronted to challenges, we fight to overcome them and to advance. That's why we need to be really resilient. In general, for organizationals, the people from MIT, the Technology Institution of Massachusetts, already back in 2011, they saw these three main challenges: missing skills, the culture issues, and obsolete or ineffective technology. I think that still these three challenges are an issue today for many cultural organizations. We need more skilled people. There are some cultural issues because change is difficult to accept and to adapt to. So we need to overcome this internal resistance to change, which is very human. And of course, we have ineffective or not updated enough technology in many museums. So those three challenges in general, I think that are still organizational gaps in digital transformation. And for museums, I have made another list. And I think first, we need still to keep digitizing. Still, we don't have the whole collection digitized, or we have just a small part, or even if we have the collection digitized, maybe we don't have the collection with enough data to make these objects discoverable and available to everyone. So digitizing is still one of the priorities and is one of the challenges for many museums. And now many museums are all digitizing in 3D, in 3D, which enriches a lot the information and the exploration and the enjoying of the pieces. So digitizing and 3D digitizing also is a challenge. Then museums need to produce more content, more quality content, and distribute it in more channels. And we saw a lot about content last week, and the need to have a content strategy in museums today. Museums need to develop better analytics, not just counting the numbers, how many people visit our website, but other elements, how long they remain browsing our website, what parts are more visited, which content attracts more interest, or more interactions, to know from where they come when they reach our website, also to know what's their experience, what's their satisfaction. So we need to develop deeper, better analytics. And of course, then study the analytics and apply the results. In museums, still, it's a challenge to integrate our data. Usually, we may have different sources of information entry. About visitors, for example. We may have the box office, maybe we have online ticketing, then we have people browsing our website, people on our social media. We have many different sources of visitor information, and perhaps we don't have a system that integrates all this data. So we really don't have a good deep knowledge about our visitors because it's scarce through different systems. Or regarding the collection, we may have the data of the collection, the collection management system. We have the data of the collection there, but then we have the library. Maybe we have catalogs from temporary exhibitions, or maybe someday we offered a conference, a keynote about something on the museum, but all those data are not connected. Here, I like to mention an excellent example of data integration of the collection, which has been recently run by the Victoria and Albert Museum, the V&A, in UK. And I think they call this part of the website Explore, because they realized that, for example, if someone asked, what do you have about any artist? They couldn't provide all that information integrated because they had the data on the, for example, about William Morris, a designer. They had the digital collection, then they had books in the library, then they have a video of that, some artworks of the artist. Then they also had an activity, and maybe they had a T-shirt on the shop. All those were disconnected. So they realized that, and they worked very hard to develop a system that integrates all data. And then now you can browse any artist and you discover much more content than before. And they have made really that content available to everybody. So this IT data integration at the end provides a better user experience because they provide much more windows to access that knowledge. And we also, I think, need to integrate better the online and on-site. For some museums, those are still two parallel worlds, and this shouldn't be so, because in our lives, we are all day transitioning from digital to analogic, and then museums should also provide that environment, respecting people that want just to wander through the galleries and not have interferences, and just to admire the artworks or have a peaceful reflection. But for those visitors wanting to go deeper into knowledge, to access deeper layers of content, museums should also provide some digital mediation in gallery. As I said, not intrusive, but provide for those visitors wanting to have that deeper experience. And as for internal challenges, I mentioned already this. The resistance to change is still there. It's very human. People are afraid to change because what we know is much comfortable, but we have to push people outside the comfort zone, because there is where lies innovation. We need still to spread the culture of sharing. I was saying before that, yes, sharing, linking is very common today, but still, even inside the museum, for people to share what they know, what they have, their documents, their data. Well, for some people, it's still an issue, and we need to spread this culture of sharing and training. training, and more training is very much needed in museums today. I think that we can all be transformation agents, no matter the difficulties, the barriers, the internal barriers, or the lack of resources. Thinking is free. And a small project can be an innovation driver. So let's drive innovation and change and help others see the potential for our organization, for our museum, see the potential that digital tools and digital transformation can offer. It's not easy, so that's why they are those are challenges. But I think that most, if not all, museums today are immersed in this path. And then we have for now covered these 5 elements of the digital transformation: the strategy, audiences, content, organization, and technology. And I will, before going to the website part, I would like to know if there are any comments or any questions. And then at the end, once we have covered the website part, I will share a lot of resources for you to go deeper if you want to. There will be examples of museums having a digital strategy published online, accessible. And there are some charts useful, I think. And I have compiled a digital strategy checklist just to review all the things we may need to keep in mind. That will be at the end of the session. That for now, before going into websites, are there any comments, any questions, any complaints? 1 minute break then. Well, let's make it shorter because since it's recording, otherwise. Okay, then we will go to the.
I think Roberta wants to say something, but I don't know, perhaps the microphone.
Yeah, because I am talking in the name of Conflict Textiles. We are a very small, not a museum, but we work with museums, have worked extensively with Irache and others. And really, I think we have also to service and attend people who are not with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge amount. I don't think it's a must to transform everything in a very, because even though we have been working on all these kinds of websites and digital it doesn't replace the actual experience.
I know.
Yeah. So I think we have to be very mindful that also the staff that works in the places and that has given lots of time and energy has to interact with these in technologies in a very careful way, because their expertise is key. If we don't have their expertise, we don't have what to show, but the glamour of the technology that is per se empty. So I think it's a very delicate process in which the actual people, public, and centrally the content we want to pass on is taken gently and not in a very pushy way into technology. Working now with an exhibition to mark 100 years of the War Resisters International, people who have dedicated their life to stop wars, one would have to be very mindful, though they use the technology only to pass it on, but not as the potential to be able to pass on all their experiences. So I would be careful with that.
Yeah, Absolutely. You have raised many different interesting topics here. Of course, technology, by the glamour, as you said, of technology, is not useful at all. It has no sense for museums. We are not to use just flashy technology for the sake of technology. We use technology to make content more available, to provide different or richer experiences, to offer to those people wanting to access different layers of knowledge or to leave the museum in a different way, but not for the sake of technology. That's completely sure. Then, of course, digital is not to substitute the physical experience. The physical experience is the only you can have when you are in front of an artwork or in front of a historical document, whatever. That's a unique experience. But for those physical visitors, digital can offer more information, more knowledge, more content, or a different experience. And more important, perhaps, for those visitors not being able to visit physically because they cannot or because they are in different countries, digital is the only way you have to access them, or the only way for them to access your content, your stories, your knowledge. And also, yes, of course, there are, and there will be for some years still people that are not digital at all because they don't know how to use these tools or because they don't want to or they cannot afford. And we need to have them in mind as well. And we need to be inclusive for all visitors. But this is changing every day. And younger and not so younger generations are digital all the time. And then the pandemic has helped to advance also this digital use of technology because for everybody, social media or Zoom or whatever was the only way to be connected with family, friends, or at work. So this is changing and more people are using digital technologies. But of course, you're right, we cannot forget those who are not, and we need to be inclusive for all. But I insist, technology is not the goal. Technology is just a tool, the way that, yes, facilitates and enhances our knowledge and our experiences. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any other questions? Then I will share again. We will proceed to the part of websites. And first, I'll share some general ideas or concepts, and then we'll cover the essentials. We cover the essentials of a website renovation process, which can be quite hard. First, just to be all on the same page, a few words about the web trends I've observed today. Webs tend to be more simplified. It's over that time where the homepage was crowded with content and with letter. Webs are more and more simplified every day because it facilitates people accessing the content. And for that same reason, content is more visual, few text, bigger pictures, audiovisual, etc. So, and for art museums, for example, visual is really key. But I would say that for any type of museum today, and webs are or should be oriented to serve users' needs. The websites are not made for the museum, are made by the museum, but for the visitors. So again, we need to keep a balance with the content that we as museums think or feel needs to be transferred, but also keeping a balance with the content that users may need, may be interested in, keeping a good balance between those. And we museum websites and any website today needs to offer diverse content layers, not to put all the content at the first site, but then distribute the content in different layers and different ways to access that content, because there will always be people that want to know more. And then we need to provide them this possibility. And the use of storytelling, we commented this last week when talking about content. Use of storytelling is really key. We engage people through stories. We human love stories from the very ancient times, and we need to take advantage of this interest and of this engaging way to attract the interest. Also, it's interesting to offer sharing options spread throughout the website, not just from a given page, but I would say that almost every page in the website must offer an easy way to share that content on social media, by email, etc. It's very easy to have that, and people want to share the content they discover when it's interesting and engaging. Webs need to be mobile first. The browsing of websites is more and more done through mobile and still increasing. So we need to make sure our webs are responsive. And that means that they are not just adapted to the mobile format and screen, but this means also to rethink the website architecture, because of course we cannot show all the same content in our mobile screen. So we need to distribute differently the content as we do on the website, and we need to think about it, and we need to do things easy for the user. And I love to say that the design of a good website doesn't begin with the design. We need to think a few things first before starting to design. And asked about what's the most important factor in the design of a website. It's not that it's beautiful. It's that it makes easy to find what I want. That's the most important thing. So we need to know what visitors are coming for to our website, what they need to know. In most cases, is the most basic information, that's address, how to access, if there is a parking, or what are the time table visits. So let's make this information very, very accessible from the beginning, and not to have go deeper and deeper to discover that basic information. But also people want to know what's about that museum, what does that museum offer to me. So let's make this content very, very easy to find what they want. Or if they want to buy a ticket online, also make this easy. And what could we say that makes content good? What makes content good? This is very interesting for museums, because it's not a website that offers a lot of information. This is very, very small. The most wanted is that it's emotionally resonant, memorable. This is good for museums for peace, because usually all museums for peace spark emotions and are memorable. And secondly comes that it makes me think in a new way. So it opens the mind. It arises the critical thinking, it opens perspectives, it makes me think in a new way. And third, it gives context to an object on display. This chart should be studied, I think, for any museum around the world, because museums know so much, have so much knowledge about their subject, their collection, that museums tend to offer lots and lots and lots of information. And that's not the most wanted thing.
No,
It's more important. It's more important to make this experience emotionally resonant and to give context. And sometimes in museums, particularly for art museums, usually provide lots and lots of information, but lack to provide context for that artwork. They explain the art history, but most of them, they don't have users to discover what they don't see at first sight because they are not experts. For Museums for Peace, I would say that you usually provide good enough context for your collections, for your documents, for your archives. What I have seen through your websites, you provide really good context and you provide stories. That's very, very powerful. And because of the subject, I would say all Museums for Peace are really, really emotionally resonant. So that's very important. Much more important than to offer lots of information, although of course museums need to provide information, but distributed differently in different layers and in a more visual way. And then we need to keep in mind that reading on a screen is very, very different than reading on paper. In paper, we can have those long paragraphs, but it's not acceptable for the website or for mobile. We need short paragraphs, cut with subtitles, provide list of bullet points, and this makes reading much, much easier because usually through the screen, we don't read every single word. We scan the page. So we need to do this reading easier. And what are the criteria to assess the quality of a website? I've listed a few here. Of course, the content, we need to provide good quality content. We covered that last week. Provide a richness of functionalities. Let users share the content, print easily the page, maybe collect favorite artworks to the personal collection, etc., etc. Design is also important. The other day we saw that we need a balance between content and design. Good content, but presented in a visual way. Then usability and accessibility, that's extremely important. I will go deeper a little bit into digital accessibility in a few moments. Interactivity, we love interactive content, and good websites provide that interactivity. Good websites are constantly updated. I've seen when reviewing some websites, content that was 2-3 years. The first content you find is from 2-3 years ago. That's absolutely unacceptable. And then we can have sort of a global perspective about the website. Is it interesting? Is it compelling? Would I recommend that visit, etc.? As for we want to go into each of these 7 concepts, just a few of them. About content, for example. Well, we could ask ourselves these questions and many, many others. If it's interesting, if it's attractive, try to review your website as if were the first time you access the website and as if you knew nothing about your museum. Try to put yourselves on the user's shoes and experience your website through the visitor's eyes. Is it interesting? Is it attractive? Provide enough information or maybe too much information? The third is extremely important. If the information architecture is clear, I would say is perhaps the main important aspect. If the information architecture is clear and is consistent, the menu is our guide. So we need to think very, very, very well about which content we want to put on the website and in how we will organize that content. Of course, to ask if it facilitates the user's tasks. I also usually mention the Jerry McGovern top tasks. He always says that we need to know which are the main tasks our visitors come to do on our website, and then prioritize the improvement of this accessibility to those tasks. And he even runs some webinars about top tasks on the website. Also to see if there are too many clicks needed to reach a given content. More than 3 clicks, you lose users for sure. So let's make access easy and with less clicks. If you can expand information and it can be personalized, you can maybe collect the documents or artworks that you are most interested in, etc. If it's responsive, this is RWD is responsive website design. Is optimized for mobile, and if it offers options to the user, searching, print, save, share, comment. Search is very important because it's not enough that Google exists. We are thankful for the Google search function, but we need to provide an internal searching tool on our website, which will be much more precise and tailored to our own content. And we need to provide a good search tool. And then very interesting, we need to know which keywords our users use to access our content, because that's a very precious information of what interests the most our users. And if we don't have content developed for a given keyword, which is much used by our users, then we have now a clue of which new content we need to develop. And as for a global view of the website, we could ask ourselves if it offers a good online visiting experience. Has it met the expectations the user had? How long have been the browsing times? And on all these things. And the last one, would you recommend it? This is a key question for not just for websites, for museums, for any experience. Would you recommend it to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers? Would you recommend that website? Those are some criteria that helps assess the quality of websites. And now a few words about accessibility. Accessibility is now a very important concept, and accessibility and usability. And it has been there for a few years now, but digital accessibility is still a challenge, is still an issue. And I always say that the improvements we make thinking on disabled people or people with disabilities, those improvements in fact represent improvements for all audiences. If our content is visual, it's clear, it's better organized, it's well designed, all these are improvements for any visitor we may have. Specifically for accessibility for people with disabilities, we may need to look the content if it's suited for different interests and ages and training, different provenances, maybe people from other cultures that our own may not understand all the things we explain or we offer. The navigation must be usable and simple, and the design needs to have in mind the color contrast. That's very, very important, and the readability of our text. Of course, people can enlarge the size of the text, but let's do it easy. Let's do it simple. And don't provide letters directly over images. That's not readable. That's not readable by machines. So for people with sight difficulties. So let's make this content easy. And from the technological point of view, responsive design, we have also mentioned this. And then be sure that no additional software is needed. Just the usual browser, and that's it. Don't require people to download X software to be able to access your content. And the semantic web is also, in the near future, a very interesting technological thing to make content more accessible, because then it puts in relationship the content of your website through the content, through the words, and then the content is more discoverable and more easy to access. And we need to follow this international standard. This is considered the international standard for website accessibility, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, this WCAG. And here you have the link, and those are standard guidelines. Some guidelines are very easy for any of us to understand and to follow. Some other guidelines are more touchy, more for technological experts, but at least you need to be you need to be aware of these guidelines to make sure that your developer or your external provider of the website will comply with these guidelines. And there is for public museums, at least, it's compulsory to comply with the AA accessibility. There is three levels. One single A, the website is not much accessible. AA is pretty accessible, and it's the standard for public museum websites. And then the AAA is for those websites highly accessible. But sometimes to reach this 3A level, you need to invest money in developing time. So you also need to analyze if it's worth or not. But at least the AA should be aimed by any website. And the guidelines are based on the, before that, there is a resource, is in Spanish, but I wanted to share it with you here because it provides many useful ideas about accessibility and tools and resources. And for example, here's a short list. For any problem, there is a solution. For the site loss, we need to provide voice interaction and very important, images description. We need to be sure that all our images contain a very short description, because if we maintain the name of the file, which is numbers, and doesn't tell anything about the image, and the machines used for the people without loss to interpret the websites cannot interpret that image. And especially if the image is important to get the sense of the article, of the text, then it should be always go with, it should always go with a description. For people with low vision, allow the zoom, and for color blindness, provide contrast. We have mentioned that before. For people with hearing loss, then provide subtitles and transcription. And for low mobility, for people with low mobility, we need to be sure that the interaction points are of a minimal size, that if the finger touches that point, goes to that point and not to the point on the left or on the right. You need to provide a size acceptable enough. And I'm sure that there are lots of resources in English. This one that I shared before is if you have to consult just one, this is the one to have in mind, and to make sure that your developers comply with those guidelines. And there are also free tools to audit the accessibility of your website. You can find many of them in these resources or search in Google. There are free tools to evaluate the accessibility of your website. And usually the tool, if detects a problem, it also offers a possible solution to that accessibility problem. And then accessibility in these international standards is based on those 4 principles, these 4 principles: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Perceivable means that every part of the website should be able to be perceived by every visitor. And this means that content should be available in multiple formats. And it considers also accessible design choices. For example, the good color contrast we mentioned, or the typography. So it can be discoverable. Then operable, web content must be able to be accessed by every visitor. So this means also people who use adaptive devices, and those who may suffer from seizures of physical reactions, and it must be also be easy to navigate. Users must be able to operate the interface. Then websites should be understandable, and content that can be readable and easy to understand. So you have here to consider the language. If you use abbreviations, you must consider also how intuitive the website is, and also analyze if it acts as in a way which users expect this to act. And well, so it should have some sort of predictable user interface and easy to learn and to remember. And finally, it must be robust. This means the website should be compatible for use across different devices and different browsers, including these assistive technologies that are used by people with disabilities. Okay. Then the renovation of the website. What for? I've been told that some of Museums for Peace are in the process of thinking about the renovation of the website, and the International Network of Museums for Peace is really planning the website renovation. Why do we need to renovate the website? I've listed here some of the reasons. You may have other specific ones. Very easily, we need to adapt our offer to the evolution of the technology, of the evolution of the social users. And we need to enrich our platform with more content, more functionalities, more interactivity, more anything. We want to provide a quality experience. We need to improve our accessibility, as we have seen, and the usability. We may want to offer our website as a space of participation and interactivity. Very important, we may need to improve the information architecture, and sometimes with the system that we may have, it's not easy to change the menu of the website. To change the information architecture may very well mean that you need another content management system. We may want to renew the design and to make it more contemporary, more visual, more dynamic. We may need to improve our visibility and to improve our CEO ranking. So that means that the search engines find our content easier. And so we may appear on the first page of the search results. Or we may want to have a content management system, a CMS, more efficient, and that can be maintained by other people, not just the web master. some content management systems are obsolete and not flexible enough, and we may need to have a new content management system that provides very simple sort of layouts, templates for any person that's not an IT person, that's not a developer, and can update the website in a very easy way. So we need easy, agile, flexible content management systems. For all those reasons, and maybe some other reasons we may think of, it's necessary for our website to be renovated. A couple of examples that have renovated the website into 2020. In 2020, this is the new Van Gogh Museum website. They already have a wonderful website before that was renovated, I think, in 2014, maybe. And they have simplified very much the menu, but still they have improved it. As you see, the menu has very few items and the language options, and they provide stories. And stories is one of the main entries of the menu. So very simple. The home page, tickets and visit. This is the most practical information most visitors need. Then if you want to know about Van Gogh and art and stories, this is the place to go, art stories, and then about the museum and the shop, the store, and that's it. But this website is very, very rich in content. I really recommend you read these stories, and they really invite you to discover more, explore, start reading. They invite you to go deeper into the content. Another very famous museum that has innovated the website is the Musée du Louvre. They really needed it. They had a very rich in content website, but very perhaps heavy to browse, and they have improved a lot the website, and it's much more visual than before. So as you can see, and the trends I commented before, the new websites are much more visual, and they are somehow simplified. This doesn't mean that they are made poorer. No, the content is still rich, but the presentation is simple and invites you to go deeper and deeper exploring. And I will share now how we dealt with the renovation of our museum website at the National Museum of Art of Catalonia. The website, when we decided the renovation was much needed, was 10 years old, which on internet is a whole life. And the homepage had been renewed, but not the internal pages. And we did have an obsolete content management system. Sorry, I have to connect the battery. Sorry for that. And we had at the moment 3 different websites that were not connected among each other, because they were run with different IT systems that were not interoperable. We had the museum website, and we had the online collection, that was another website, and we had the catalog of the library, which was in another data system. So we have 3 different websites, and we wanted to integrate all this. Those 4 were the main reasons that we needed to renovate. And of course, we wanted to provide a better digital experience for our users. This was the old website. As you can see, lots of text, small size of the typography, small size of pictures. So it was not really easy to read. It was not really readable. And then we run this process in 10 different steps, which I think can be shared for any website renovation process. First, we made a good research. We browse through many different museum websites around the world, and not just museum websites, because it's also interesting to have a look outside your field. It enriches very much your experience and your view. And we collected some of the best functionalities we discovered in different places. Then second step was to build a good website project. I really recommend, if possible, to build this project internally by the museum staff you had, because the museum is the best prepared to know which are the needs, which are the goals, which is the mission the museum needs to serve. So even if you don't have an IT expert person in staff, the project, which is the planification, the content you will have, how you want to structure this menu, you can advance a lot on your own. Then yes, of course, you will need to have some technology expertise on board, and you will need to contrast if you want, if the things you want to have are feasible or not, or what does it mean from the developing point of sight. But I would say that the planification step is good to be worked internally, and not just by the digital department or the digital person, but discussed with the team. Then, since we were a public museum, we cannot contract directly. We needed to run a public contest, a public tender, and to run a provider selection. And in the process, we also involved the rest of the museum, because it's very important to listen to the people's needs, what the curators need of the website, what of the visitor services know the visitors needs. So you need to listen to everybody perspective, and to discuss this internally. And it's interesting to do this mainly for two reasons. First, as I was saying, to be really aware of all the needs the museum can have, but also because at some point you will need people to contribute with content, with pictures, with ideas, with whatever. So it's much easier to get cooperation if you involve people from the very beginning. And then we for that we run a kickoff meeting to start and to share what we had in mind, and to integrate all the views and the needs that the rest of the museum had for the website. Then we also involved users in the testing process. For museums, it's very common and very usual to plan and to think of activities or projects or content or events or digital projects for the users, but never consulting the users. We develop and we design and we prepare, and then once finished, we share it with the public. But it makes sense that if it's intended for the public, it makes sense that we integrate users' vision and perspective also from the beginning, and to contrast and test our project before it's completely finished. Because if you have to change things, it's easier to do it, easier and cheaper to do it during the process. We also developed some content strategy, which architecture, with which organization, which menu, which would be the main menu and the sub menus, and what content didn't need to be on the website. Not just because you have a given content, this means that it has to go on the website. If it's useful, yes. If it's necessary, yes, but not every content needs to go on the website. And we also detected what content needed to be created from scratch. And then of course, we were very ambitious with our website, but we couldn't do all on the first phase of the website. So we foresaw different phases to be able to increase and to expand the website. Then once the website is finished, you need to launch and to communicate that you have a new website and invite visitors to come to your website. And you need to keep testing and measuring and analyzing, because then you can perceive improvements to be made or content that may be lacking. And it's a ever turning wheel. You need to keep improving and experimenting all the time. The website is not finished when launched. We could say that the real work starts there. You need to analyze and improve all the time. And today, with this agile project management system, it can be also recommended not to make the whole big renovation process, but maybe start in some parts of the website and then publish them, test, and then incorporate the knowledge from that testing prototype to the other parts to be still to be developed. So it can be also a very good approach to apply the agile mind to the website renovation process. So our project development ran three aspects that were worked simultaneously. The architecture and content. This was mainly made by internal staff. And then for the website map, we ran some user testing. I will show you afterwards. And we selected which content could be reused, such as it was, and which content needed to be created from scratch. For example, we didn't have much audiovisual content at the time, so we started to produce more videos and audiovisual content for the new website. Then the design. We had some ideas about design, but of course, we are not website designers. And after the tender, the selection of the provider, we worked together with them to have the website designed, and they present the different wireframes, and we run some user testing, and so we worked the design with them. And then the technology part. We decided, before having the public contest, we decided that we wanted a content management system that was open source. That means that it's open by everybody to use. You don't pay a license. It's open. And since we are a public museum, we felt that it was okay to use open source management system. And this has been, after that, a few years after we had the website renovated, this is something that it's made almost compulsory by the Catalan government to have open source systems for the public museum websites. And we decided previously that we wanted to use the Drupal CMS. What's that? Because we didn't want the providers to come up with different CMS, content management systems, that were owned by a proprietor. We didn't want to have different systems proposed to need to study them. So what we did, we were not computer experts, we were content experts. So what we did was to make some research about the museums that had recently renovated the website and ask them which CMS they used and if they were happy with that CMS. And at the time, the Louvre had renovated, the Tate also, and some other US museum also, and all of them were using Drupal, and they were happy with that. Of course, there is not the perfect CMS for you. You always have to work to adapt to your needs. But in general, Drupal was proving to be quite good CMS for museums. And so we decided that we wanted to have that one. So on the contest, we said that we wanted the provider to have Drupal as the content management system. And then we made compulsory for the developers to comply with those international accessibility guidelines to be a AA website. And we wanted to integrate our 3 different databases, collection, library, and museum integrated together. So we work all these 3 components simultaneously together with the provider. This was the first graphic design proposal we received by the provider. But that wasn't what we really wanted. This is an overcrowded content here. It's too much content, too many different calls to attention. We think such a model is not really useful for the user, not for the museum. It was too complicated, too crowded. Not everything needs to be on the homepage. And now, more than before, we need to be aware that many of our website users won't come to our website through the homepage. They may come through a link on the Google search results page, or they may come through a link on social media to a specific page of our website, not necessarily the homepage. So first, we don't need to have everything on the website. It's too crowded. It's not useful for our users. And then we need to organize the information in a very simple, easy way of access. So this design was rejected to be excessive and overwhelming. It wasn't really innovative and didn't facilitate discovery. It stresses more than anything. But it was a first try. So we changed completely, and that was the design that was finally approved. It has moving, sorry, I cannot find the word. It's a loop of 5 to 7 images, and then a simplified menu compared to what we had before, that it had 10 or 11 items. This has 7. We weren't able to reduce to 5. Some museums have together exhibitions and activities. We still needed to have them separately because we had a very rich archive of the past exhibitions, and we decided to keep them separated. But many museums put together exhibitions and events, and then learning, and then participation, and of course the collection. But first we put the visit. I recommend not to start presenting the museum, the museum's mission, social responsibility, the organizational chart, etc. We have all these, but at the end, but starting with the visit, because we detected that most users of the website wanted to visit the museum, and we wanted to make it easy. And then this is a page of an inner page. When you roll the mouse here, it opens this submenu of different options. This is one specific artwork record. We have the big image here. We have other related images. This is a Gaudí armchair. We have the description, and the tags, etc., etc. This is quite a complete record of our online collection. And then you can search the collection. If you are logged in, you can save it as favorite, etc. And at the about part, we have also our strategy plan published. We have some explanation here, and you can just download the strategy plan 2019-2022. It's a PDF. We have translated. Our website is trilingual, Catalan because it's our language, then Spanish, of course, and then English. We have everything trilingual. So we translated also our strategy plan. You can download it here in a PDF. And we have also our browsing of the 5 main aspects of the strategy plan. This is social, the collection, knowledge, impact, that's communication, and management and financing. And you can browse or you can download the PDF. We think that's an effort to be transparent to our visitors. This was a website map of a preliminary. It's a first version of our website map, our website structure. And what we did was to test this structure with real users. We run card sorting with different types of users. We had students, an architect, a designer, a teacher, an older user, an expert on digital. We had several different types of users, and we presented them our 7 main options of the menu, and provided with cards to see how they would organize that content. And we discussed it, and we compared their organization with our preliminary organization, and made some adjustments, some arrangements to better fill that user testing experience. This is very easy. It's cheaper. They were voluntary. We made a call through social media, and it provided very useful insights for our organization, for our website architecture. So I really recommend this. And then we provide them with free tickets for the museum whenever they wanted to visit, and some books of some catalogs as a complimentary thankful. But they were just voluntary, so it's very easy for any museum to run a card sorting test. And the provider had also a software to do what is called the eye tracking. That means that you ask the users to complete a task, and the software analyzes where the user's sight goes first, and then you can see if how you have organized the content is easy for the users to access that content. And it's important for me, I think, that the museums very clearly state their mission or what they are about very easily, because there are museums, especially if they have the name of the founder. This happens a lot in the United States, and you don't know what's the museum about. So it's very useful to post in an easy way and very visible what's the museum mission. I recollected here some of the Museums for Peace missions, and it's very nice to have this very, very clearly stated and in different ways as you see. And you don't need long text to do that. You can be very, very concise and here just, for example, this Kyoto Museum for World Peace, they say, see, feel, think, take your first step towards peace. Very simple, but very powerful, very inspiring. So I really recommend to have the museum's mission made very, very visible. And very specific as well. For example, the Guernica Peace Museum, it's, of course, the museum exists because of the Guernica bombing. So it's very necessary also to precise this, to be specific. And they say the Guernica Peace Museum is a theme museum setting out the culture of peace. That's general and can be shared for any museum for peace. But then it was inspired by the tragic bombing of Guernica, setting out the two themes, history and peace. That's a very good definition of the museum, I think. or the Vienna Peace Museum is dedicated to researching and promoting stories of peace activism in Vienna and the world. So, when museums run a renovation process, some of them share their lessons learned. And for example, the Museum of London share those lessons learned through the renovation of their digital content project process. For example, they say that it's not good to have random acts of content. So that means not just start creating content and different types of content, not randomly. You need to think content strategically, to plan for content. It's good to provide serial content. Netflix, for example, has accustomed us to watch series, and series are appreciated by any type of cultural consumer, younger and older. So it's good to provide serial content on our websites, on our video channels, on our blogs, etc. It's also good to break activity and content into smaller units, not to provide a very long post on our blog. We can divide it in 3 different posts, for example, and make this serial delivery. And it's important to have a dynamic calendar and resources. It's good to have an editorial calendar. We commented this last week, and that to be dynamic, to be adaptive and flexible for new content needs that may appear. And my personal lessons learned, I ran 2 museums website renovations. The first one was at the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, and the second one was at the National Museum of Art of Catalonia, which I just shared. And I learned that sometimes it's difficult to get the involvement of your colleagues, because everybody is overworked and they don't have the time to dedicate to think about the new museum website. And then I realized that it was much more effective to get cooperation in face-to-face meetings, much better than in general meetings. In general meetings, usually people complain, but they are not really proactive, or they offer really innovative ideas. Those arise in the most personal meetings. And then you need to be pragmatic, and you want to get everybody on board. So take the most out of the most cooperative people, and don't worry about the others. They will come. Because once you have launched the website, then is when you get the bigger engagement in providing content of ideas, because they see the result, they are happy with the result, and they see the possibilities much better and much easier way than just thinking. And then when they see the results, they think, oh, well, my department is working on that project. This could be very interesting for the website. So once you have launched, you get easier help and engagement by your colleagues. One thing I would recommend is to get in contact with the Pratt Institute in the UK. They run museum studies and design studies, and they offer for organizations the possibility that their students of the master make a project based on your museum's needs. And for example, they have several about museum websites renovation. And I've made some screenshots here. This is one made from a student. They run user research, a sitemap revision, competitive reviews. They develop wireframes and prototypes for the museum. So at no cost for the museum, if you have scarce resources, this can be very, very helpful and useful to have very good students developing very good projects for your website. Of course, then they run just a prototype, is an academic research and project. But then you have here a user research that maybe you have not the means to run, and then you have people thinking about your website structure and then made very good proposals. I have made some different screenshots from different projects. They improve the information architecture, they improve the discovery, and they enrich with new functions. So they bring new ideas to your website that you may not have thought of. And this is another one this is about a library and the findings and all the things that that they discovered about the website of the library, the weak points and the things to be improved. Okay, so I really recommend to go in contact with this Pratt Institute. And this is another one. And they detected some problems and they proposed some solutions. For the desktop disconnect, they have some streamlined login process, and this is about a library. And for, well, the mobile navigation was not that intuitive, so they make some proposals to improve the mobile navigation, etc. And that's another one. So for some problems, this was overwhelming as our first graphic design proposal. It's overwhelming, too much content here. And so they propose some simplification solutions, also some visualization solutions. A few words about the CEO is the search engine optimization. In few words is how Google and other search engines find your content, and most important, how they visualize your content to the public. So you need to have in mind some of the requirements to be upgraded on the search engine page results. Google algorithms are secret, but they share some of the principles. And at the end, as with accessibility, I think that the CEO-oriented improvements we make for our website, in fact, represent improvements for our users, because we make our website better structure with a better design, adapted to mobile. That's a first compulsory requirement for Google, that websites are mobile adapted, that are responsive. Link building, as we were commenting before, is also a good element for the Google results and also for your users. So it's important. And it's also important to know why the users come to our website. Sorry. Some US museums run a survey, just a one question survey. What's the main reason for your visit today? And then they discovered, for example, that for the Indianapolis Museum of Art, it was to plan a visit to the museum, find information for professional purposes, personal interest, or make a transaction. Or for the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the motivations were, I enjoy looking at art, I'm an academic looking to conduct research, or I'm searching for exhibition and events. So and all these museums found what were the main motivations of their visitors. And then they responded accordingly. And we need to measure, and to measure, to improve. There are lots and lots of indicators we can collect, but I recommend to keep them short, because otherwise we won't be able either to collect them or to analyze them. Here you have some of them, for example, from audience engagement, the user comments and posts, the social shares, the page visit time, the downloads, and the opens or click-throughs of the emails and the links you offer. And now, I won't comment all this. I leave them here. You will have the PDF available. There are some resources of museums that have their strategy published. If you just have to look one, I recommend this one. It's from 2013, but this was the first museum in the world to have a digital strategy published, and all the concepts are still valuable for today. They have published updated versions, of course. The Andy Warhol Museum also has a digital strategy available and shareable. This Nordic Museum. The Derby museums have a digital engagement strategy that goes a step forward, not just a digital strategy, but a digital engagement strategy that can be downloadable. This Judicious Museum in Berlin has summarized in a single page their strategy, the implementation of the digital, the online strategy, embrace this audience-centered approach, the culture of networking, an open access strategy, and this organizational transformation that goes hand in hand with digital, and some of the things that they would develop.
Hello, Concha.
Yes.
It's 2 hours now, so
yes.
Yeah.
I will be finished in 2 minutes.
Yes, maybe if you can try
you.
to wrap up in 5 minutes or so. Yes.
Yes.
And those of you
absolutely.
who have to leave, please feel free. We're going to have the video available later. Yeah, please go on. It's so interesting.
Thank you. Just very quickly, these were museums that have the strategy published, and from here on, I share with you some resources, presentations that can be useful. I recommend to go to those links on the slide share to see other resources. This one is the other main element I would recommend. This digital engagement in culture, heritage, and the arts by Jasper Visser and Jim Richardson is freely downloadable. It's a 50 pages resource. It offers different engagement frameworks for you to work collaboratively inside your museum. And well, different frameworks, I just leave them here for you to have a look afterwards. And this is my checklist, my digital strategy checklist. It comes in 4 slides, and then for each of the steps of the digital strategy, you can have, if you have maybe made the research, made the SWOT, and you can just tick all the steps that you have accomplished about content, channels, tools, etc. Action plan. And then, of course, you have to communicate and to evaluate your digital strategy. I leave here this checklist for you just to have. I would recommend that we need to plan, but we need to take action, if possible, today. I would invite you to think, what can you just do tomorrow to start changing things? Or what can you do in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, but start to take action, if possible, today. And as wrapping, as I was asked, we have been commenting, but I think museums need to enrich the digital interpretation, both online and inside the museum, inside the galleries. We need to provide digital interpretation for those visitors wanting to have a different experience and go deeper into content. And we need to create quality content for the audience, focus on engagement, adapt the technology that it's usable, suitable for the public, not the most flashy technology, just the technology we need, not more. The internal cooperation is very much needed, and we need to invest in improving the digital skills of our team. And I think, as a final thought, museums are not neutral. Museums cannot be neutral. There are many issues that need to be confronted: injustice, violence, war, conflicts. Museums cannot be neutral. And I think that at the end, shouldn't all museums, any kind of museums, be museums for peace? I leave it here. Thank you very much. Arigato. If any one of you has any question, I will be here still a couple of minutes. Thank you very much for your attention. Arigato.
Thank you. Thank you, Gonsha. There's just so much material, and I have a list of my own questions, but I would like to open the floor first, for anyone who may have a question. Wait, I'm going to remove pin. Anyone has question? No? Maybe I can ask my questions.
Of course, please.
Am I missing anyone? No. Okay. Well, I'm very excited, hearing your presentation. I just want to get to work as soon as possible. It's very exciting. A few questions I had. Maybe I'll ask this first. There was this card sorting exercise that one museum invited all the stakeholders to do. Is there any tool to do this online, do you think? Can we? Because we can't simply get together like that. I thought it was very useful activity. Yeah.
I would think that it probably exists. I don't know now any such tool. It surely exists. I will try to find out, and I can email you.
Yeah, but, I'll do look into it.
Now that we can have and be social again, I would really recommend to have it on site, because then the interaction, it's very, very easy, very quick, and people get much involved. But I'm sure that there is some tool online. I will try to find out.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there's something on the chat box.
Are all museums for peace?
Oh, yeah.
I would say not yet, but I think that they should. For example, art museums in United States, many of them have positioned very clearly around this topic about Black Lives Matter. So many museums have reacted to that. And for example, yesterday was the LGBTQI Day, and many museums participated on that. So yes, I think all museums, any museum around the world, should be a museum for peace, besides your network. But yes, absolutely, museums cannot be neutral. Cannot be neutral. There are too many conflicts out there.
Okay. Is there anything else? I have one more, actually, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yes. So you've demonstrated so many models and a list and charts, and there's just so much. And I feel like, I don't know where to start. And sometimes I think some people have different learning styles. Like when I look at all these, list of to-dos, then I feel like sometimes I lose my intuition. Like I lose track of my thoughts. Like when I try to follow everything that I have to do. So my question is, where do you start? And how do you incorporate more of a spontaneous, intuitive thoughts or ideas or creativity with all this quite analytical model? Like yeah, I think it's a balance between sort of a left brain and a right brain.
Yes.
Yeah, could you comment on this?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm aware that I have shared a lot of content, but some of the content is just for you to use as a resource whenever you have the time or whenever you feel the need to go deeper in some aspect. But then, yes, yeah. To start, I would recommend to start with your museum's mission and objectives, to have that very clear in mind.
Right, right.
Then to go to your audiences. Which audiences do you have? Which audiences you still don't have but would like to reach, or do you feel you need to reach? And then once you have the objectives and the audience, try to start thinking how through digital ways and tools and content, you can fulfill those objectives for your audiences. This would be a very simple first framework to act. Objectives, audiences, and then see how digital can enhance or facilitate all this. And how to keep being intuitive. I don't know. I don't have a formula for that. I would recommend to have an open mind and open eyes. Open mind to change, to accept new things and new ways. The world is changing, so we need to keep an open mind and also open eyes to watch, to see what others are doing, to see what others are doing really well, to see which digital projects seem to be more successful, more engaging. It doesn't need to attract millions of people, because maybe for your museum it's not that important, but to see which projects reach more engagement. I think digital engagement is one of the goals to reach through digital, to have people more engaged. So to keep an open mind and to keep open eyes. And from all the resources I have shared, I would prioritize the digital engagement framework by Jim Richardson. This is the 50 pages report, and it provides very useful, thoughtful reflections and good examples. And I think that this is and it contains the 10 main items to discuss and to think about in museums to engage this digital engagement. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this also makes me think in two tiers, because we're a group of museums, right? International Museum Network of Peace. But the network itself, it's not a museum. So I think we have to think in like two different categories, two different tiers when we build our new website. Yeah. I don't have an answer for that, but I think, yeah, we have to have kind of two different brains to.
Of course, you don't have a collection, but you have a collection of collections, which are all those international, all those museums. So there is a great potential there.
Yes. Okay, I think we've gone over 15 minutes, so it's probably a time to wrap up. And anyone else has any burning question or comment they wanted to make? You okay? Akihiko-san, you're smiling. Is there any comment? You're okay? We can hear you if you wanna unmute yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Concha. Well, it's full of lots of inspirations and encouragement for us. So I really appreciate your 2 weeks workshops for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much. All of you. Thank you.
Yes, we'll definitely get back to you with more questions.
Sure.
Whenever you want. Thank you so much. Yes. And as Irache showed at the beginning of this webinar, we'll have a summer break and we'll come back with more webinars in September, and we'll make announcements. So please keep tuned with International Network of Museums of Peace. Thank you very much, and have a great summer or have a great winter, depending on where you are on this earth. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.